This old man in the photo with me is a real headhunter. He is highly respected in his village because he has 6 shrunken heads of the enemies on his necklace. This photo was taken in Nagaland, the northeastern part of India, where the practice of headhunting was happening till about 200 years ago. So it's interesting to me how the name headhunter was actually given to the modern agency recruiters. They do hunt for companies' headcounts, but they don't really hunt or snatch your head from behind. And your first encounter with them are most likely going to be a hello from LinkedIn or some of the random calls out of nowhere. Are headhunters useful? So a lot of people ask me because when they started their job search and then they reach out, they send CVs to headhunters and they often don't get any response, or if they do come back, often that job is hardly relevant. And actually, this is because many of us don't know how headhunters work, and therefore we don't know how to work with them and how to get the real benefits out of that working relationship. It should not be to replace or you compare that with a direct job application or networking with a company. This should be just an additional channel, an additional network that would build your career in the long term. So here are the benefits if you know how to work with them. One is more job opportunities. So companies are still using headhunters because of a few reasons. Recruitment is costly. Some roles are urgent. Niche roles are very hard to hire, and in-house teams are always overwhelmed. 2, more information. So there will be a lot more information about the job, the team, and company cultures, and headhunters are typically briefed and they have done research so they can know a lot more. 3, personalized interview preparation. So you can ask them questions in your preparation, and you can always find out where is your knowledge gap and what's your weakness as a candidate. So all these things can be very highly personalized, and you have a consultant who's helping you. That can greatly increase your chance of success. Next is extra recommendation. So if they are very convinced about you, they can really convince the hiring managers to meet you or even influence them to give you that final job offer. So every headhunter would have convinced some hiring managers to meet people who they initially didn't want to meet and eventually offered. Another benefit is the detailed feedback after an interview. This is something that in-house recruiters are very hesitant to give in a lot of details because they don't want to be sued or they don't want to appear in the media headline. Of course, they don't have the time either. So the next benefit is it can be a favorable salary negotiation because your interests are aligned. And how is it aligned? Is that headhunters get paid as a certain percentage of your overall salary package. You can even get free counseling because headhunters have seen many human issues, some of which are similar to yours. This can be great data points for reference because they do meet with candidates who are facing issues at a certain point of career with family, health, and other issues, right? So of course, with all these benefits that I have mentioned, they have limited bandwidth and they don't offer these benefits to every candidate they know. To benefit from working with headhunters, you need to understand how headhunters work. So headhunters primarily work for companies who pay, although they do need to align to the interests of both the companies and the candidates so that they can make a placement and grow their business. So for headhunters, they tier every candidate roughly in such a way. One is hot, who are immediately placeable. So it means it's always on my mind. The other one is keep close, and they usually remember those candidates by heart. And then they have the rank and file, meaning they just upload, tag the candidate, and put it in the database. The last category is where you don't want to be. That's basically the blacklisted, the rude, the unethical, the dodgy ones that they can't trust, the people who they had bad experience with. So you want to be, among all these tiers, you want to be that hot candidate if possible. But jobs are not always there, so you want to be the keep close candidate. Because when opportunity comes, the first thing a recruiter would do is those who they remember by heart, even if those people they didn't manage to place. So there is also one term called float in this industry. That is a practice where headhunters send those highly placeable candidates out to potential employers. And this practice is also called spec, it's speculation. You will want to make sure that they do tell you where they plan to send you to. And you want to make sure that they ask you for consent. Sadly, there are headhunters who still don't do this. And it's unethical, and it can also cause serious issues for both the employers and job seekers. How to assess a headhunter? The bottom line is they must seek consent before sending your CV to a client, which means you must know who the client is and whether it is for a specific role or not. You always have the right to say no, and you should tell them if you have already applied with that same company. And the first sign of whether a headhunter is good is whether he knows what he's talking about. If you ask him about the company's business and recent movement and he has zero clue, then you can be sure that you don't want to work with this person. And also whether this, is he just interested in getting your CV? He doesn't want to know what the employer wants and what you want, then that is just a no-no. So you do want to assess their knowledge. The good headhunters are great bridges of information, and if they can demonstrate that capability, you need to connect with them very often and ask them many questions on how this job briefing or interview processes are. The chances are they will tell you everything except for what they really cannot share. The next point that you need to observe is, do they really care about long term? If you sense that they only want to make a quick placement, then the behavior can be very different. For example, if you tell them, I only want 20% traveling, then a good headhunter will come and check with you, hey, but sometimes it fluctuates, it could be a bit higher than 20%, are you okay with that? But the not so good headhunter will come, just keep their lips shut, or they will not create issues with those things. A few more things are good to find out whether they are on retainer assignment, and especially many senior roles might be on retainer assignments, and that gives you more insight who are you up against and whether they are likely to support you. And also you can ask them who are their usual clients, right? Or they usually have some anchor clients that they have really very good rapport, and those clients tend to go back to them again and again. So for those clients, for that portfolio, you can then see if that's the kind of space you want to work in. The next point is on how to work with headhunters so that you get the maximum benefit. First of all, if they approach you for that first call, don't treat them like credit card sales. Even if that's an unsolicited call amidst of your meetings and that annoyed you, or that's the 15th call you got for the week, you don't want to end up in a blacklist, and you might be also missing a great partner. So if you are interested in talking, then tell them about your interests. The next is assess them, which we have talked about just now. So if after assessment and you think you can work with this headhunter, then the next thing is make an impression. Try to get yourself on the keep close list. So first you need to make a good impression, and the best is to meet them in person. But in the current situation, you might want to at least do a video call. So once you have made that impression, you still need to check in once in a while to reinforce the good image and the memory, to make it more recent, to remind them of your existence. The next is to give them bullets to use, because when you have established good trust with them, you still need to support them about selling and marketing your profile. So you need to feed them the best things about you with bullets, write-up, or the most recent media exposure that you had, those things that are not so well told in your resume. Another piece is about utilizing the information. So if you are working on an active role supported by them, make sure you do ask a lot of questions. And these are super important for you, especially for interview preparation or post-interview kind of a post-mortem. There are also areas where they don't align to your interest. So one is try not to share too much details about how the interviews went, because they will share it with other candidates. This is how they get the information and share with you for your interview preparation about how the interviewer was like and how the company's culture is like. You also need to be aware that they will manage your expectations, especially on salary and a number of things that you will want. They of course want to push the salary higher, but they don't want to risk losing you that offer, because if just think about it, if they add 1K to your salary, that's not going to be a very big number in terms of impact to their commission. To counter that, what you can do is to be more anchored yourself, to know what's your market worth and how much you actually would go for the job for. I will talk about how to manage how to negotiate for salary in the other videos, because that's quite a big topic. And lastly, do not tell them exactly where and what role you are interviewing at the moment, because this is going to become the intelligence of the industry movement and is a potential lead that a headhunter can follow up on. So you definitely don't want that to happen unless you know that you're more or less securing that role and more or less that's going to be closed already. To wrap up, there are loads of benefits if you know how to work with headhunters. Of course, you do want to watch and assess who they are before you invest in that relationship. You should also consider exceptions though. There are certain sectors that headhunters either typically don't work for, or there will be very specialized headhunters who operate in those domains. So based on my experience, what I know is they usually don't work a lot with fresh graduates. They don't work a lot in terms of placing people into consulting firms. So that is usually just a direct process.